Merry Christmas, folks, and welcome to a very super special holiday edition of Hashtag AskGSM here today for Wednesday, December 25th, 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews, the always jolly Graham GSM Matthews, episode 317 to be exact. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying your Christmas morning. If you don't celebrate Christmas, you celebrate Hanukkah or something else, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa tomorrow, happy anything, happy fucking Wednesday, let's put it that way. The final episode of the decade for Hashtag AskGSM, the final episode of 2019, the final episode of the decade, falls on Christmas morning itself. Doesn't get much better than that, I would argue. We've had episodes on, Halloween before, 4th of July, maybe? I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to check up on that. But we've been doing the show now, bottom line, for, 6 years? I think since the summer of 2013 is when I started this show. We are over 300 episodes in, including 2 live shows, which was nuts, and hopefully we can do one of those again soon. Definitely not today. I'm recording this on Christmas Eve, and this has easily been the busiest month of the year. One of the best months of the year, if not the best month of the year, absolutely. But, it's always busy. I was hoping to get some questions down for today's show. Didn't know how many questions I would get, because, again, I always gather the questions on Tuesdays, and I was going to originally record this on Monday, couldn't, got busy, did other stuff instead, had to record other stuff, write shit, whatever. So I ended up pushing this to Christmas Eve. And obviously, as you're listening right now, this is going up on Christmas itself. Going back to my original point, though, I put out the question to gather questions on Twitter and Facebook on late Sunday night, while I was watching Die Hard, actually, and then early Monday morning. I was expecting only a few questions, like only a few people to know, like, hey, it's Christmas. I figured most people would either forget, not give a shit, whatever. We have almost 3 pages worth of questions here today. You guys are killing me. I love you guys, and I love the questions. I'm going to answer them all, of course, but it's like, Jesus Christ, I can't spend as much time on every question as I would like, just because, it's tough. It's tough because I have to get going soon. I have other Christmas Eve festivities to attend to, but still, I appreciate you guys sending in as many questions as you did. And hey, go big or go home. It's the final show of 2019, the final show of the 2010s. We're blowing this off. We're blowing this thing off with a bang here, and it is pretty cool that the final episode of the year of the decade falls on Christmas, and the first episode of the decade for the 2020s falls on New Year's Day. So it doesn't really get much better than that, I would argue. Again, like I said earlier. But again, if you're listening to this on Christmas morning itself, either while you're opening gifts or while you're doing other things, instead of being with your family, God bless you. Very much appreciate it. But we are answering all your questions here today from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to send in questions to the show, please do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up the night before. If not on the wall itself, I would appreciate it. And speaking of the night before, I watched the movie for the first time yesterday and very much enjoyed it. It's a nice little Christmas movie. Very crude and whatnot. It has Seth Rogen in it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I want to say his name is. And Falcon, I forgot his name. Anthony Mackie, I think, from the Avengers movies, the Captain America movies. And they were all great. It was a great movie. That just reminded me of that when I said the night before. But anyway, going back on track here, I might be doing that a lot during this episode. I've not been drinking eggnog, to be specific here, to clarify that. I've been not drinking eggnog prior to recording this show. But if you want to send in a question via YouTube, you could do so by leaving a comment on this very video. I will include your question in next week's edition. So speaking of next week, real quick, a lot like this week, I'm probably going to record the show early on New Year's Eve. Probably not New Year's Day itself, I would imagine, just because I'll be busy doing other shit. I don't think I'll even be home during the day. So I'm going to try to record it on Christmas Eve, if not the 30th. So again, a lot like this week, which you guys did, and I appreciate, so thank you for that. Even if you're listening to this well after Christmas and not the day that it comes out, which I don't expect you to. It's fucking Christmas. I wouldn't listen to anything on Christmas, let alone my own fucking show. But anyway, send in your questions as early as possible through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. As soon as this video wraps up, or on Saturday, Sunday, whatever, because I'll likely be recording either Monday or early Tuesday. So the earlier you're sending the questions, the more guaranteed it is the questions will be included. And again, I thought there would be a lot of people sending in questions today on Tuesday, and the last time I checked, I've gotten none today because everyone sent them in on Sunday and Monday. So again, I appreciate that. But the first question from Brandon A. We will kick off our Christmas festivities with Brandon's question here from YouTube. One real quick thing before he, put in his questions. He said, "What's up, GSM? Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. I hope you enjoy yourself thoroughly over the next week. Before I get into my questions, I think you would appreciate this. So my roommate and I throw a Christmas party at our apartment every year, and we had it this past Saturday. We always throw a Christmas movie on just in the background with the volume turned low so it doesn't distract from the games and conversations going on at the party." I love that idea, by the way. Anyway, I put on Home Alone first, and when it was over, my roommate puts on none other than Die Hard. We had a conversation earlier that day about it prompted from what we had been discussing on this show, and he also liked my argument about why it is not a Christmas movie, but he still disagreed with me nonetheless, a lot like me. Finally, he sticks it to me by playing it at our Christmas party, and it was actually playing while we were doing our White Elephant gift exchange. People seemed to enjoy it, being in on the background as well. The Santa Claus was the movie we played after that. Anyway, on to my Christmas-themed questions, and of course, Alexis is welcome to answer as well if she is with you. Unfortunately, she is not, but hopefully we can get her back here on the show soon. She loved doing it when you guys sent in the questions for her about a month ago during the Thanksgiving episode, or the Thanksgiving week episode, whatever. First of all, those are three great movies to put on. Home Alone, Die Hard, Santa Claus. Get the fuck out of here. That's like the holy trinity of Christmas movies right there. I would say those three and maybe Elf. That's a great triad of movies to put on at a Christmas party. And first of all, before we go any further with your questions here, I would like to commend you on not putting on A Fucking Christmas Story. I will talk more about that movie later, but I feel like that's on every Christmas party ever. Because especially on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day itself, it's on TNT all day long. Jesus Christ. I'll talk more about that movie later, but that movie just does not do it for me. But anyway, though, I like the Die Hard stuff. I appreciate that. But he said, speaking of White Elephant gift exchanges, have you ever participated in one? And what were the best and worst gifts that you got from them? I really don't know what a White Elephant gift exchange is, if it's like a grab bag type thing. So I was introduced to this concept the other day at Alexis's family party, her Christmas party over the weekend, where they do a thing where you bring a gift, wrap it obviously, at least a $25 minimum, around that range. You put it in a bag or whatever, and people, you draw numbers, and the first person gets to pick their gift, and whatever, so on and so forth. You can switch if you would like, and you get what you get type of thing. So I brought a Disney card at the behest of Alexis because she thought that'd be a good idea because my aunt would have loved that shit because she loves Disney. Or not my aunt, her aunt, excuse me. That'd be weird. Her aunt loves Disney, so we brought a Disney card, and I brought Dunkin' Donuts card, maybe? I think Dunkin' Donuts. It was like a $15 Disney store card and then a $10 Dunkin' card is what we did. So I brought that, and in return I got from her grandmother a complete kit of everything ice cream. Everything you would imagine putting on an ice cream sundae is what this woman gave me. Obviously anonymously, because she didn't give it to me personally, but it was it was the gift that she brought for this grab bag thing. So if that's what you were talking about, then because that's the only one I've ever participated in. I've done Secret Santas and stuff like that before. I've gotten Rick and Morty gifts, which was nice from people at work a few years ago. From relatives, like random ass shit, like GameStop cards and like a watch, like a stupid dinky watch that I wore as a kid. It wasn't anything fancy. So this year from Alexis's grandmother, I got this complete kit for all things ice cream, including, but not limited to, chocolate sprinkles, whipped cream, rainbow sprinkles, coconut sprinkles, or whatever the fuck it was, an ice cream mug, a Santa-looking mug, which was awesome. My favorite thing of the whole shebang, because I could use that for hot chocolate and shit like that. Just a lot of ice cream stuff, an ice cream scooper. There was a lot of ice cream stuff, like well over $25, and it was the perfect gift for me because I didn't get like any alcohol-related shit, because I don't drink anyway, as you guys know. It was perfect. It was the perfect gift for me, and I absolutely loved it. So that's, I think, the only real like gift thing I participated in that wasn't a Secret Santa. So that if that's what you're talking about, then that's what my answer would be. And it was a lot of fun. Initially, I wasn't all that sold on it, and maybe I would have different feelings about it if I got a shittier gift, obviously. I didn't switch. No one switched with me, which was cool. But, yeah, I mean, I'll participate next year because I'm very excited to partake in again. But his second question here. What were some of the Christmas gifts that you wanted the most as a kid, and how often did you get what you wanted? Also, do you call them presents or gifts? I think both. I'm trying to think what I've said to people, like over the last number of weeks. Like, oh, I'm getting you a gift. I'm getting you yeah, definitely gifts. I don't really say presents. Like, oh, let's open the presents. Like, no, I say gifts. Let's open the fucking gifts. I gift you things. I give you a gift. I'm your gift. Here are gifts. I say gifts. I mean, presents aren't weird either, but none of that sounds more fancy. Like, oh, open the presents, that type of shit. I say gifts, but in terms of stuff I wanted most as a kid, honestly, not much. I'm the type of person, you can ask Alexis, I was this way then, I'm this way now, where I don't really want one particular thing, to be honest with you. Honestly, it's usually stuff that I wasn't even asking for that I end up getting that end up being the best gifts. Like 5 years ago, I think I asked for maybe some recording stuff or something along those lines. I'm not 100% sure, but ended up getting the very microphone that I'm speaking to you on right now. It was this very microphone, actually, the Blue Yeti microphone. Got that for Christmas in 2014. Didn't ask for it, got it. The best gift I think I've ever gotten, because I've gotten so much usage out of this thing, and I fucking love it. It's USB connected, very easy to use. I use Audacity with it, and you can check every show that I've done since 2014. I've done every hashtag with this microphone. It's great quality, and it's still great 5 years later, and that was something I did not ask for. That, and then like the next year, I got an iPad, which again, I did not ask for. Got it, great gift, used it all the time. So stuff like that, I think, ends up being the best gifts. Stuff that I wasn't even looking to get, but ended up getting, and it was a great gift. So again, I don't really ask for much. Like, I think this year, I'm not really sure what, and that wasn't really anything major. But as a kid, like, there wasn't one gift I really wanted, honestly, aside from the Wii. I asked for the Wii when I was it was 2007, because it came out in 2006. I knew there was no chance of us getting it then, just because it just came out. But we got it the following year, and it was still really popular by 2007. And one of the games that I wanted was Lego Star Wars. Lego Star Wars for the Wii. We got it. One of the best games I've ever played. Those Lego Star Wars games are so much goddamn fun. But anyway, so I asked for that. For the 2007 Christmas, we got it, my brother and I. And again, one of the best gifts I've ever gotten, just because it was a lot of fun. Got a lot of usage out of that thing. Haven't played the Wii in like 5 years, but I did play it for a solid 5 to 6 years, even well after I graduated high school. Loved the Wii. That was definitely, as far as I can remember, the gift that I wanted the most as a kid. Maybe the GameCube, but I think I was a little young for that. I think we got that in like 2003, and I might have been like 8, and I don't really remember that. But the gift I wanted most was the Wii, and we ended up getting it. Do I often get what I want? Yeah, I mean, usually, but I don't really ask for anything super fancy, like I said. I don't ask, oh, give me a car, give me like a fucking this or that, like anything that's like $600 or some shit, for the most part. Maybe just money to help me pay for certain shit, but that's about it. So usually, do I get what I want? I mean, I guess. I mean, yeah. But it's just not anything major, so that's probably why. I can't recall like one Christmas where I asked for something like, oh, I really wanted this, and I didn't get it. So maybe it goes to show maybe not how nice of a kid I am, but that's, float my own boat there. But more so how cool other people are to get me what I asked for, like Alexis and my family and stuff like that. Santa Claus, obviously, first and foremost. But, I think it has less to do with me and the shit that I ask for and the people that actually get me the gifts and the people that go out of their way to get me what I want. So I think it has more to do with that, really. So I'm very blessed in that sense. His next question, what are some of your favorite Christmas songs or carols, and what artists do the best versions of these songs? Which ones do you like, even if you only hear a traditional or instrumental version? I do like Christmas music, but there's not like one song I'm like, oh, turn that shit off, like it's awful. The Drummer Boy I never really got. That's a little slow for me. Silent Night, it just like puts me to sleep, which I guess is the point. But I like the upbeat Christmas music like Jingle Bell Rock, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. Last Christmas, that's not upbeat, but I like the song though. Alexis and I actually recorded a wrestling version of that song, and I'll probably post it tomorrow or today here on the channel since this is going up on Christmas. It was terrible, but you might like it, so I'll put that up soon. All I Want for Christmas, the Mariah Carey song. You can't sit there and tell me that that song doesn't get you pumped up for Christmas. I won't be that person like Brandon and I have discussed before. I will not be the person to blast it the night after fucking Halloween, which I know was a joke this year with Mariah Carey on her Twitter. She tweeted about listening to that song like on November 1st. I won't do that per se, but it is a really good song. Honestly, it's a fucking jam. I heard it for the first time. It came out in like 2007 or something. The first time I really got like familiar with it was like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm like, wow, this is a good song. And it's, you know what? It might be a female song, but I fucking love it. I think there's a lot of guys that like it too, and I'm not the only one. I'm the only one man enough to admit that. There is one song called, I forgot what it's called, but it has CeeLo Green and the Muppets, which sounds like a fucking weird-ass mixture. You probably hate the song. But it came out about 6-7 years ago. I heard it for the first time during a WWE, actually, Tribute to the Troop show, because the Muppets were there, CeeLo Green was there, I think. And they were promoting their new single by CeeLo Green for his Christmas album, I think that came out that year. I think it's called All I Want for Christmas Is You. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's the same song that Mariah Carey does. But it was a different, it was a different version with the Muppets, and they had the do like that old Muppet song. And they mixed it with that, and it was the perfect mix. And it's a great song. I love that song. And a more recent, song I've kind of grown to like is the actual Fozzy version, the Fozzy cover of Father Christmas. Chris Jericho's played it on his podcast a lot in the last month. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a really good song. And Father Christmas wasn't really a song that I liked at all prior to recently, before I heard his cover of it. But his cover is great, and I love Fozzy, so it's a very good song. Top 5 Christmas movie characters of all time. You can use a group or a duo as one spot if that makes sense. So my top 5 would be the following. Now, I would include John McClane from Die Hard, but because it's you asking the question, Brandon, and you don't consider Die Hard to be a Christmas movie, I won't include him. He's an honorable mention for me. But if we're not including John McClane, then The Grinch would be number 1. Like, it's not even close. The Grinch, Clark Griswold from Christmas Vacation, absolutely amazing. Kevin McAllister from Home Alone, the Home Alone movies. Tim Allen's Santa Claus. He's my favorite Santa Claus. I fucking love Tim Allen. I think the guy's hilarious. And watching those movies back this year, 1, 2, and 3, really drives home. The movies may not be great, but he himself as Santa is awesome. Just Tim Allen's funny anyway, but he does such a great job with the character that I can't not include him here. And then finally, for number 5, Buddy the Elf. There's probably many more I'm missing here, like Rudolph from those old claymation movies, like Santa's Coming to Town, shit like that. I guess I would include that, like the Heat Miser and stuff like that. But my 5 would be off the top of my head is what I came up with. The Grinch, Clark Griswold, Kevin McAllister, Tim Allen, Santa Claus, and Buddy the Elf. And John McClane from Die Hard as an honorable mention. His last question here. If you can insert yourself in a one Christmas movie as one particular character and live their exact experience, who would you choose? I think this question differentiates itself from question 4 because Marv and Harry from Home Alone would be in my top 5, but I definitely would not want to live their experience. As a bonus, which traps from the Home Alone series do you consider the most painful or fun to watch? Thanks a lot for another great year, and see you in 2020. Well, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that. Honestly, I was going down the list of Christmas movies I watched this month, and honestly, I would not put myself in any of their shoes, because it always ends poorly. Even as, Tim Allen's Santa Claus might be the closest thing, to wanting to relive their exact experience, but even then, I don't want to be Santa Claus. It feels like it's way too much work. I put way too much thought into this type of shit, but I was, while watching the Santa Claus movies, I was thinking to myself, damn, I would never want to be Santa Claus. That sounds like the absolute worst job in the world. But at the same time, I think that might be one movie I would put I would like to put myself in their shoes, just because the joy that you can bring to people with the gifts and stuff like that, the fact that people believe in you and whatever is awesome. So probably Santa Claus, and specifically Tim Allen's version, if not another version of Santa from another movie. But you said the Home Alone traps. I mean, all the Home Alone traps are great. The ones in the first movie are more fun. The second movie is just dumb as hell, because you said the most painful, because they're so unrealistic. Literally, in the first trap in Home Alone 2, when they get to the abandoned apartment, that Kevin's uncle occupies, but he's not there, and Kevin takes it over and uses it as like a booby trap, heaven for Marv and Harry. He throws bricks at Harry, at Marv, I think. Is Marv the curly-headed guy? I don't remember, but he throws the bricks, and not Joe Pesci. Like 5 of them from the top of a building. Like, that makes no sense. 1 brick would kill you, let alone 5. So that looked painful. Putting your head in the toilet while your head is on fire, those always look painful. I would never want that to happen to me. Stepping on a needle, or the nail that was on the stairs in the first movie. Getting electrocuted in the second movie, the curly-headed guy did downstairs, I think. The tarantula, no thanks. Getting your teeth knocked out, no thanks. All of them look painful, and none of them... the first ones are more realistic. The second one is just ridiculous. But they're all great fun nonetheless. Emmanuel A. from YouTube, his questions included. He said, hey, Graham, it's been a while since I've asked anything here on YouTube. I went to NXT TakeOver War Games and Survivor Series last month. Oh, that's cool. As well as the Thanksgiving episode of AEW Dynamite. I've been meaning to ask, or rather talk about it, but college stuff left me busy, plus I'm forgetful. In any case, I will just ask a few short questions for now. I plan to ask some follow-up questions in the future. First one being, knowing your work on NEW, Next Day Wrestling, you seem to follow AEW Dynamite and Dark, NWA Power, and Ring of Honor TV, as well as all the WWE shows. What would you say is each show's main appeal? Well, you forgot Impact. Don't forget about Impact. Impact's a good show, too. Well, including Impact, they didn't say Impact, but Impact's appeal for me is that it's a simpler show. They advertise shit a week out. It's not the same show it was years ago. I actually enjoy Impact now from week to week. They have a great roster, and they had some very good main events. Tess is an appeal for me on the show. Tess is great, as well as they have a lot of good people. Brian Cage is great. Really enjoy Brian Cage and a few other people, but specifically Blanchard and Brian and Sammy I like. They have a few pretty good tag teams. LAX was there. They left. The Lucha Bros left. Impact is probably the wrestling. AEW, just because it's an alternative, it's something different. Dark doesn't really do much for me. I watch the show because it's part of the AEW canon and it matters. But the AEW shows in general, just because they have a great roster, I watch it for the wrestling. Not so much the storylines. Definitely not their women's division, I'll tell you that much, for the most part. But they have a very good roster. They're just starting up. I'm very excited to see what they'll do next and how they'll build off of what they already have, build upon what they've already built up in 2019. But yeah, that's why I like watching AEW. The WWE shows, in a nutshell, Raw, SmackDown will and always be the biggest shows in wrestling. Maybe not SmackDown. SmackDown, it falters. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a must-see show, sometimes it's not. But those will always be the biggest shows. And you know what? You'll ask people that are kind of casual fans. I've asked Alexis before, like, what's your favorite wrestling show to watch? And honestly, sometimes it's Raw. She knows it's not a great show most weeks, but she enjoys watching it because it's the biggest show there is. That'll never change. So that's the big appeal of Raw and SmackDown. NXT I just fucking love, start to finish for the most part. Great wrestling, storylines, characters, the feel of it, the intimate atmosphere at Full Sail University. Love NXT. NXT UK is kind of like that to a different extent. 205 Live is Ring of Honor TV, what's the appeal there? It's lost a lot of its appeal recently. Ring of Honor TV is a lot of highlights from past shows they've done. It's not really original content anymore. But again, the wrestling might be the appeal there. NWA Power, just because of the promos, the character development, the fact that it does take place in a studio, on the storylines, and just the overall atmosphere at the show. Even Alexis isn't a big, indie fan, whatever. Although the best show she said that we went to this year was like the Northeast Wrestling Show in a fucking gymnasium back in June. But it's a lot like that. Even she's watched the show. She's familiar with it now. We watched parts of Into the Fire together. She also likes the studio aspect, the fact that the emphasis is more on promos, because she's not a big wrestling person, like in terms of in-ring action. She'll know a great match when she sees one. But that's not like her main attraction to a certain show. So NWA Power is kind of more tailored to her, which is cool. But that's the appeal of all those shows, in my opinion. His next question, I know you followed all 4 seasons of Lucha Underground. I did. As a 2014 to 2018 product, how would you describe Lucha Underground's lasting legacy, and what is/was the show's impact on the decade? Honestly, I don't think Lucha gets enough credit as it does for being as great of a show as it was. Lucha was the first real alternative to WWE. I mean, obviously there was WCW. I'm not talking about that, but like this decade was definitely Lucha Underground. It was different than Impact. It came around at a time where Impact was dying off and the show sucked. So it was much better than Impact. It was better than Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was still putting on great pay-per-views, but their weekly product was not must-see at all. They still don't have like a weekly time slot anywhere. It varies depending on the market that you're in. Lucha, every week, 8 p.m., El Rey Network. Even if you didn't get the channel, you would find ways to watch the show because it was that good. I watched every single episode. I reviewed every single episode. All the episodes are up now on, my reviews of them, rather, are up on nextwrestling.net if you want to check them out. But yeah, I fucking love that show. I mean, it kind of faltered off a little bit towards the end, but the wrestling was awesome. And the big appeal of Lucha to me was getting to know people I wasn't already familiar with. It got me familiar with Ricochet, a.k.a. Prince Puma. I did not follow New Japan at all. I really don't. I watch Wrestle Kingdom maybe once. You know, I watch Wrestle Kingdom a bunch, but I'll watch like one New Japan show a year, and that's Wrestle Kingdom. But other than that, I wasn't overly familiar with Prince Puma. Got to know Mil Muertes, Matanza, who was Jeff Cobb, who's one of my favorites now in the indie scene that's not in WWE. I love Jeff Cobb. Taya Valkyrie was there. Ivelisse went there after WWE. They brought in a lot of great talent. I don't think people realize how great that show was and how great of a roster they had for as long as they did. And also, too, it gave people, like, the impact that it had. Again, it didn't last long. It was only a few years old, had 4 seasons. But it gave people a platform to really break out and do their own thing. Really come into their own as talents. Like John Morrison, a guy that really didn't have much buzz after leaving WWE. And granted, he went on to do acting and shit like that. But he was working in Mexico and people weren't really keeping up with what John Morrison was doing. Fast forward 3 years after he leaves WWE. He joins the pilot of Lucha Underground. Debuted actually on the very first episode, lost, I think he won. I think he beat Prince Puma, and then Prince Puma avenged the loss when he became the first ever Lucha Underground champion a few months later. But anyway, they brought him in as a babyface. He was good, was even better as a heel. The Worldwide Underground was great with PJ Black, and as Melissa Santos would pronounce his name as, PJ Black. And they had Jack Evans and Taya and Johnny and Ricky Mundo, I think his name. I forgot what his name was. Ricky Mundo, something like that. Not Rick Martel, but it was something along those lines. But he was good too. Yeah, the whole faction was great. And Morrison, if it wasn't for Lucha, I don't think would be back in WWE right now. Because they really took their time with him in Lucha, made him a star. He really came into his own there. Jeff Cobb too, Prince Puma, same thing. I don't know if he'd be in WWE right now if it wasn't for Lucha. I know they wanted him years before he was in Lucha. I understand that. Maybe not too long before, but he really, his stock really skyrocketed while in Lucha as Prince Puma, even while wearing the mask. But the show was awesome. Their lasting legacy, giving people a platform. Like, for the American viewers, too, like, people like Pentagon and Phoenix had no idea who these guys were. No fucking clue. And now they're among the best in the world. The best tag team in the world, I would argue, is the Lucha Pros. They're amazing. And I got to know them through Lucha Underground. So I think that's their lasting legacy, even well after they've ended. So people have asked me, like, oh, is the show coming back? Their last episode of Season 4 aired in, like, late 2018, like November, I want to say, of last year. I don't think it's coming back. I mean, if it was going to come back, I feel like it would have returned by now, because it's been well over a year. They've never taken a year-long break. If anything, it's only been a couple months in between seasons. Never like a full-on year. Plus, the executive producer of the show, Krista Joseph, old Big Dick Johnson from WWE, actually recently went back to WWE. He joined MLW, left a month later, because he was going back to WWE. So if he would not be attached to it, I don't think the show's coming back. Eric Wagner, I think, might have also been an executive producer. We have heard nothing about the show being officially canceled, but I would be shocked if it ever came back, to be honest with you. Just because if Krista Joseph, who was really the biggest, genius behind that show alongside Eric Wagner, if he won't be a part of it because he's back in WWE, then it's not coming back for a 5th season, I hate to say. Emmanuel's next question here. After 4 straight years of the renewal of brand warfare, do you think WWE should stay with the concept for next year's Survivor Series? Is there anything new they could add to the formula? Yeah, stakes. Add in stakes. How they haven't already, as we've said many times here before, and on Wrestle Rant Radio and other videos and shit like that. I have no idea how they have not already added stakes into the mix. But I'd be shocked if they got rid of it next year. I mean, I said months ago they should get rid of it this year. But that was before they added in NXT, and it ended up being the best thing to happen to Survivor Series in years. It was a really good show. It was honestly one of the better pay-per-views of 2019. NXT won. The matches were great. Didn't really mean anything, but it helped NXT a lot. Honestly, if NXT does not win at Survivor Series, if they're not at all involved in Survivor Series, they would not be winning in the ratings over Dynamite right now. That's just a fact. So, I mean, the numbers prove that. They weren't winning prior to Survivor Series for the most part, but they've won several weeks since then, which a lot of people figured was not going to happen. And by wide margins sometimes too. They've tied, they've won. I don't know if they've full-on lost. They did lose decisively a few weeks ago. But other than that, they've won, I think, maybe more than they've lost. And that was because of Survivor Series. So I would be shocked if they ever did away with it in the coming years. As long as NXT, provided that NXT continues to be involved, the brand warfare shit is not going away. What else they could add to the formula? Yeah, just stakes. Like I said, add in stakes. That would make it more meaningful. Although it has already helped NXT, it would be nice to have formal stakes for the show, like winning brand gets the final spot in the Royal Rumble, or winning brand gets the main event of WrestleMania. I know they don't think that far out. I get it, but it would still be cool nonetheless. And it would be nice to see, the matches actually mean something for once, and not just good matches for the sake of having good matches. His last question here: how would you describe your attachment to pro wrestling in the early days of the 2010s compared to now? Do you think your taste and ideals have made any changes as a fan? That's a great question. That's a very, very good question. It has changed, but for the better. I see a lot of people who I know used to watch wrestling that are still fans now to an extent, or either not fans at all. That's changed a lot. A lot of people fall out of love with it. And it has nothing to do, I've watched longer or I've watched less. I've watched for over 10 years now, which is nothing compared to a lot of you guys who have watched your entire lives. I started watching when I was 14 years old. Not even, maybe 13, I think, actually. 12 or 13. So not my entire life by a wide margin. But I feel like I continue to love wrestling as much now as I did 10 years ago. Times 10, actually. I feel like I like it, and I fall more in love with wrestling by the day. And I watch so much of it, I do so much work with it. If I wasn't reviewing everything I watch, and that's part of my OCD nature to an extent, I don't know if I would be watching every episode of every show that I do, but I would still like to keep up because I like the shows. Even the worst shows are mildly entertaining to an extent. So yeah, it's only grown since then. I'm watching far more wrestling now than I was back then. And back in early 2010, I barely had cable. I was watching Raw, not even live. I was watching it the next day. And that was when I was in high school. That was a different story. But now I could not imagine watching a show, right after the fact. If not live, then later that night, I was watching Raw, SmackDown, ECW. That was it. I was watching Impact. That's a lie. On occasion, though, I stopped watching it for about a year back then. I stopped watching it in late 2009 because I didn't have cable. Just couldn't record it, and it was never really available on YouTube. So I stopped watching it. And yeah, so I only really watched WWE. Then I got into Ring of Honor in 2014, fell off of it for a while, came back in 2015. I've not stopped watching since. Started watching Lucha in late 2014, followed that thing through to the end. Obviously, AEW, I started watching earlier this year when it started and have not missed the show since. Impact, I got back into in late 2010. NWA Power, I've been following closely. I've never really been able to get into New Japan. I really just don't care, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. I just don't care. It's not my style of wrestling. All the matches just kind of seem the same to me. It's great matches, but storylines and stuff like that. I know they have them, but it's just a lot to follow. Sometimes they have shows every day. I can't even begin to imagine watching every show, reviewing every show. I already watch enough as it is. But anyway, it's only really grown since a decade ago for sure. A Lane to the Y from YouTube. Daniel Bryan's promo on SmackDown was mostly really good stuff that contextualize his character's direction heading into 2020. The negatives, besides the rest of the opening segment being standard set up the tag team match play material, comes from how the explanation for where did Daniel Bryan go or the Fiend kidnapped him and tore out his hair being, I don't know either. You know the story is lazy when even the people acting it out can't follow it. Like, did your narrative even need supernatural mystery if you weren't going to use it? Yeah, that didn't really make much sense. It was a solid opening segment, but yeah, they never really acknowledged what the hell happened. Did he rip out his hair? Did Daniel Bryan see that his head had his hair ripped out and he's like, well, I might as well just shave it off? Is it supposed to define him as a brand new babyface going into the new year, kind of separating himself from what he had as a heel, like the look that he had as a heel? That was my guess, but he didn't really spell it out like that in his promo. It's one of those things like, oh, that's what happened and now time to move on. Like, it was one of those type of things. It wasn't like an egregious example of the company completely ignoring something. They've had way worse examples of that. But it was a little annoying after the biggest question coming out of the show was 3 weeks ago, what happened to Daniel Bryan? And we didn't really seem to find out. Daniel Bryan doesn't even know. So yeah, that was a bit annoying. Elena's second question here. Has the Elite actually been formally introduced on AEW TV? Hangman Page's current arc is fine, but when the announce team mentioned how Adam Page wasn't there for the show-ending brawl, it suddenly hit me that almost all of the details about Page's connection to the Elite come from being the Elite in social media. It's the same issue as the MJF promo. Why isn't more background information being emphasized on Dynamite? I completely agree. I was watching BTE this week, and it's a very good show. And maybe they do this shit on the show itself because they want people to watch the show and not make them feel like it's a total waste of time or whatever. They want to further storylines in the show like they were before Dynamite. This shit has to air on Dynamite, though. It has to. Paige left the group on being the Elite. And I know a lot of people watch BTE. Not the entire AEW audience watches BTE. Alexis does not watch BTE. How would she know that Paige formally left the Elite? How would she even know what the Elite was unless I told her? They don't. They expect people to know because they're expecting their entire audience to be hardcore fans. What about the people just flipping through the channels on TNT? They don't watch the fucking YouTube show with these indie guys in it. Who gives a crap? They need to know what's going on the show itself. Yeah, they'll mention it in passing on commentary. That's not enough. A lot like the MJF promo, you hit the nail right on the head when you mention that. They need to further this shit on the show itself, even if it means replaying the content from the show. Just air replays of BTE. But I would prefer that it played out on Dynamite, like a major thing like that happens on BTE, or rather happens on Dynamite. Then they offer additional aftermath on BTE that's not central to the story. It's just additional stuff. It's not crucial. You don't need to see it. Like, that's what they should be doing on BTE, because not everyone watches the show. And when you have the commentators randomly throw it out there as a line on commentary, like Paige has left the Elite, like, what the fuck? Like, obviously I know that because I watch the show, that being BTE, but not everyone does. So yeah, they need to do a better job of that in the new year of relaying this background information and emphasize it, like you said, on Dynamite and not just BTE. Their next question here. The matches besides the championship matches on NXT last week were good, but don't really offer much to talk about. They were good wrestling matches, and I get the title matches that bookended the show were the real draw, but I wish we had more universe-building stuff on USA NXT, like before when it was on the network or even Hulu. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, could NXT TV use more variety? I still love it. I just wish NXT resorted to more than takeover-like matches to compete with Dynamite. Again, you're absolutely right. Both Dynamite and NXT are great, but that's no reason to say, oh, everything is perfect. I mean, I really enjoy a lot of what NXT does. They're not a perfect brand. And you're absolutely right. They seem to focus more on the matches. Damian Priest and Killian Dane, very good match. Why should I care? You know what I mean? Like, what's the real feud there between Dunn, Dane, and Damian? What's the real feud there? I don't get what the appeal of the program is. The matches are good, but what's on the line? You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't really understand that. But nonetheless, they need to do absolutely more of that stuff. It does need more variety. It is a great show. It is the best wrestling show out there right now. I will argue with anyone about that all day. I mean, Power is great and shows like that, but overall, the best show of the week is always NXT. Like, it's not even close. And their storylines are solid, but they need to do more storyline building outside of the main people. and give people more of a reason to care about them. More video packages help. They've done more of that in recent months, like in the last month or two, which is good. They need more of that. They need more, undercards, storylines, and shit like that. But yeah, I absolutely agree. They need more universe-building stuff, like backstage things that we got more during the network era and the Hulu era. Like Sasha Banks turning heel happened completely backstage. When Summer Rae went up to her, and she was like, oh, you can't get the job done, like you need some help, let me help you, blah, blah, blah. And that's how Sasha went heel and became the boss, was because of Summer Rae in a backstage segment. I feel like we don't get enough of that type of stuff on NXT TV. We get the video packages, which are a step in the right direction, but we need more backstage stuff. And so does Dynamite. I feel like they focus too heavily on the matches, which is great, and they're very fun matches, but give me a reason to care about the matches and to care about the characters outside of the main people. Thomas B. from Facebook, great question here. How would you rank the new Star Wars films since The Force Awakens in 2015? And he also wants me to include the spin-off movies too. That's a great question. First of all, without giving away any spoilers, I enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker. Saw it early Friday. Thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Not the best movie by far they've ever done. It was a nice way to wrap up the saga. But then again, honestly, I also said right after I saw The Last Jedi, I liked that movie too. And honestly, it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. It wasn't a good movie. I watched that movie back recently for the first time since I saw it in theaters 2 years ago. I was like, wow, this movie really is not that good at all. They really fucked up the saga with this new movie, with The Last Jedi. But anyway, so I thought Rise of Skywalker was good. Could it have been better? Absolutely. Should it have been a bigger and better finale than what we had? 100%. But at the same time, though, it was better than The Last Jedi, and that's all I'm going to say about that, without giving away any spoilers. So my rankings here is this. Number 1, Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was tremendous. Rogue One, I think a lot of people recognize as being a great movie. I don't know if it's the best movie they ever did. I wouldn't say that. But Rogue One is another movie I have to go back and watch again because I saw it twice. That was the only Star Wars movie that's come out in the last 4 years. And I said I would watch Force Awakens twice too, and I didn't. I actually only saw Rogue One twice. It was the only Star Wars movie I saw twice in theaters. It was that good of a movie. Rogue One was a terrific film. So Rogue One would be number 1 of the recent, movies they put out. Force Awakens at 2. I thought Force Awakens was a really good movie then. I think it's a really good movie now. And I think moreover than anything else, and Rise of Skywalker, I put it 3. Because Force Awakens, I don't know if I will ever be... actually, that's a lie. I was going to say, I don't know if I'll ever be as excited for another movie as it was for Force Awakens. And it was Endgame, obviously, and Infinity War and stuff like that. But Force Awakens comes close. The hype for that movie was unfucking real. Unreal. Like, the entire year of 2015 was built around Force Awakens. It was unbelievable. The hype was fucking real coming out of Force Awakens. It was such a great experience. The movie itself was great. The cliffhanger was great at the end there. The overall movie wasn't the best they ever did. It was a lot like A New Hope. I get it. But overall, it was just a very fun film. So Rogue One, Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker. Great movie? No. Very good? Yes. Enjoyable? Yes. Could it have been better? Yes. Would it have been better had they not screwed the pooch with The Last Jedi? Yes. But I enjoyed it for what it was. Last Jedi after that, again, easily the weakest of the 3 main films. Not terrible. Honestly, I thought it was better than Solo. Solo's number 1, or is number 5 here on my list. I thought that was the weakest of the 5 movies. It wasn't really necessary. They did address a lot of storyline-related stuff, which was cool. Wasn't a bad movie at all. It really wasn't that bad. But honestly, I was fucking bored by the end. I almost fell asleep. And I never fall asleep during movies in a movie theater. Ever. And I saw it during the day. That's how much that movie bored me by the end. It was predictable. I thought, Donald Glover? I think Danny Glover is a Lethal Weapon guy. Donald Glover is the one that played Lando in this movie. I thought he was great. The guy who played Solo was fine. I really have no desire to see a sequel. The Darth Maul thing came completely out of nowhere. It was a cool cameo, but I'm like, what the fuck was the point of that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, unless they're building up a sequel, like, what was the point of that? That made no sense. I know he was alive in the show and whatever, in the Rebel show during the time this movie took place, but still, I just thought it was weird. Anyway, so I thought, Solo was easily the weakest of the 5 films. I have no desire to watch that one back again. But again, from best to worst, Rogue One, Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, Last Jedi, and then Solo. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from me, Twitter machine. Check out his YouTube show as well. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Great stuff as always. Hope you enjoy your holiday, my man. Always great talking to you on Wrestle Rant Radio and beyond. John is awesome. But anyway, his first question was, is there any Christmas music you can simply not stand? Either a remake of a classic song or even one of the classics. Like I said earlier, not really. There's really not one Christmas song where I'm like, oh, like this is terrible, this is awful. I'm sure there are some that I'm not thinking of, like that have been done recently by like the Jonas Brothers or Miley Cyrus or some shit. None that come to mind. But like I said, Drummer Boy in Silent Night just put me to fucking sleep. Again, I know that's the point with Silent Night. The song itself just does nothing for me personally. So no, there's not one song that I'm annoyed at every Christmas season. But those 2 songs I would probably just skip over if I was listening to Christmas music on Spotify and I had the option of skipping over them. His second question: what are some of your favorite and least favorite Christmas-themed WWE moments and matches? That's a very good question too. I've watched every holiday Raw and SmackDown in the last 10 years. They did a Christmas SmackDown. I don't know if people remember this in like late November of 2011. It was so weird. Like, why in November? It was bizarre. Mick Foley came out, but not in his typical Santa gear. It was like Mick Foley just with a Santa hat on. That was kind of a weak show. The Christmas Eve Raw from 2012 I watch back from time to time. I enjoyed that show. I liked the Christmas Eve Raw from 2012. I liked that show, though. The Miracle on 34th Street fight I have always found to be an absolute blast. I fucking love that match. It's my favorite holiday match of the year. All the other stuff I don't really care about. Anything with the divas they used to do, like, the Jingle Bells match, or like the Lumberjill matches, and like that shit was stupid. Like, I was watching the Christmas Eve Raw back from 2012 with Alexis the other day while we were wrapping gifts, and she's like, what is this shit? Like, this is terrible. It's so degrading, too. Like, it was just dumb. It's not like that anymore, but like in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, they were doing that all the time. The Mark Henry Damian Sandow match, the Good Santa versus Bad Santa. I'm not sure if that was a playoff of the movie, the Bad Santa movie that came out years ago. I don't know. But that match did nothing for me. It did nothing for me at all. I think that aired in the 2013 Christmas Raw, if I'm not mistaken. But that was kind of a boring match. But again, the Miracle on 34th Street fight matches, I love. The 2011 one was Randy Orton versus David Otunga, and he threw like Christmas cookies at Otunga, which was funny. The 2012 one was John Cena and Alberto Del Rio, which was also entertaining. 2013, I don't know if they did one. They did the Good versus Bad Santa thing, but I don't know if they did a Miracle on 34th Street fight. They did do one in 2014. Yeah, with Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose, which was fun. That was a really fun match. 2015, I don't know if they did one in 2015. I don't know if they had a Christmas show in 2015. I know they had the Slammies that year. I'd have to go back and watch the shows. I don't really remember. I don't really remember the Miracle on 34th Street fights in recent years. I know they've probably done them. This year's I thought was really good. It was honestly the best part of that SmackDown that I went to on Friday. Heavy Machinery versus The Revival. The crowd was hotter for that match than anything else on the entire show except for The Fiend coming out after the show went off the air. That was the best part of the show, was the Miracle on 34th Street fight with Heavy Machinery and The Revival. People ate that shit up like they were Christmas cookies. Great match. Really enjoyed it, and I love the Miracle on 34th Street fight shit they do every year. I just think it's a lot of fun. His next question here. What is the absolute worst Christmas-themed movie you can recall seeing? That's a good question. Honestly, there aren't many. The thing with Christmas movies, it's kind of implied that they are bad, that they aren't great anyway. Just because a lot of them are like eye-rolling. Like, for example, Christmas with the Cranks makes no sense. It's stupid, it's dumb, but I love watching it every year because it's so bad it's funny. I enjoy that movie. That's one of those type of movies. There are movies that I've seen this month, though, because obviously, like I've said before here on the show, I've tried to watch at least one Christmas movie a day for the last 25 days since December 1st. Really, since November 30th. And some of the ones were bad. Like, Deck the Halls was a lot like Christmas with the Cranks, but it just wasn't really that funny. And it had Danny DeVito in it, too. I liked the movie, but it just wasn't that good. Deck the Halls with Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito, like I said, that came out, I think, in '06. It just wasn't that funny. The Home Alone later movies were terrible. I saw someone tweet, "Oh, Home Alone 3, better than 1 and 2. Get the fuck out of here. Home Alone 3 sucked. It's not the same kid, but that's not even the issue with it. The movie's just bad. It's a bad, bad movie. Terrible movie. I will accept no other opinion than that one. Home Alone 3 sucked. Home Alone 4 was even worse because they did the Kevin McAllister deal, but none of the same characters came back. None of them. They had, like, the Inspector Gadget dude, not Matthew Broderick, but the guy from Inspector Gadget 2 play, like, Marv or Harry or some shit. It was bad. And he was there with, like, his girlfriend or some shit. It was just a bad movie. And I also recently watched Christmas Chronicles on the train ride home from Brooklyn on Friday. Come home from SmackDown. God, that was just tough to watch. The little girl in that movie is just terrible. Like, that shit was cringeworthy to me. A lot of the verbiage from, like, the mom is bad. Just a really stupid movie. I thought it was better than it was. I thought, like, going in, I'm like, oh, I heard a lot of good things about this movie. It sucked. It sucked. I know a lot of Christmas movies suck. That one was especially unbearable to sit through. I was almost compelled to turn it off, but I had no other Christmas movies to watch. I had no other Christmas movies downloaded on my phone to watch on the train ride home, on the train ride home, from Brooklyn. So I kind of had to suffer through it to keep the streak alive, but God, that sucked. His last question here, also for fun, what is your favorite Christmas-themed animated movie? That's a good question. Couple different ones, not one like stands out as being an obvious choice. I mean, the Grinch movies. The original from the 60s is great. The remake from 2019 was animated too. Very good movie. The Christmas Carol movies. Not Jim Henson. That's the Muppets. Jim Carrey. The Jim Carrey version of Christmas Carol that came out 10 years ago in 2009. It was very good. I watched that this month. That was a very good animated Christmas movie. Nightmare Before Christmas. Obvious choice. And Klaus. I watched Klaus for the first time a couple weeks ago with Alexis. That came out this year on Netflix, I want to say. And I thought it was very good. Honestly, I thought it was a great movie. I really enjoyed Klaus. So I would say those are among my favorite animated Christmas movies. And obviously the Year Without a Santa Claus and Santa Claus is Coming to Town and shit like that. Those are always great. But aside from those obvious picks, it would be Klaus, Nightmare Before Christmas, the Grinch movies, and Christmas Carol. At noob_n_code1991 from Twitter, their first question was, do you think that WWE is protecting Becky Lynch from Asuka because WWE is making up for the mess that Asuka has been through for the past year? It has nothing to do with Becky. They didn't do the match sooner just because, I don't know, they didn't have any idea to do it sooner for whatever reason, which was stupid. They should have done it months ago, but at least we're finally getting it now. They're not doing it to protect Becky like she said in storyline. That makes no sense. They're not doing it to make up for Asuka's bad booking. Like I'm not really positive they woke up one day in the last couple weeks and said to themselves, hey, like we really botched the booking of Asuka this year. Let's make up for it by putting her in a Raw Women's Championship feud with Becky Lynch. I doubt that's what they realized. It's more a matter of it was a loose end. They never tied up with Becky losing to Asuka earlier this year. Asuka beat Becky. We have to correct that situation. Why would you forget about that? It has nothing to do with them like, oh, let's get Asuka back on the right track. She's already one half of the women's tag team champions, which doesn't really mean much, but it's something. She's not going to beat Becky for the title. Obviously not. Becky's going into WrestleMania as champion. So yeah, with Asuka, it's more a matter of tying up a loose end than it does, oh, Asuka's really been botched this year. Let's put her up against Becky. Like, I'm sure that might have something to do with it, but it's really more a matter of revisiting a story that they should have done months ago. His second question, which superhero movie takes place during Christmas, Iron Man 3 or Batman Returns? I think both of them do. I don't know if I've ever even seen Batman Returns, which I know a lot of people will be pissed at me for saying that, but I think that takes place during Christmas, as does maybe Iron Man 3, I think. I don't consider either movie to be a Christmas movie at all. There's not really many, not the same way I would Die Hard. I mean, there's not really as many Christmas elements about those movies. Again, I haven't seen Batman Returns, but from what I understand, it's not really a Christmas movie the same way that Die Hard is, not in that same vein. Iron Man 3 is just, I've seen that movie a million times. It does not stand out to me at all as being a Christmas movie whatsoever. I don't remember one single Christmas movie scene, one Christmas scene they had in the Iron Man 3 movie. It's a great movie, But I don't consider that to be a Christmas movie at all. Maybe it does take place during Christmas, and I'm just forgetting something. But as far as I remember, it's not a Christmas movie whatsoever. Lavid Pereva from Twitter, their first question: who are your least favorite wrestlers of all time? Honestly, I don't really have many. I can't sit here and say, oh, I fucking hate that guy. Like, there's a lot of people that annoy me, like Lana is fucking terrible. But like the top two that come to mind used to be Big Show. I was the biggest anti-Big Show guy in the world for years and years and years. I don't mind him anymore. He's not really on TV. He's not bothering anyone. He's not wrestling as much anymore. He's not burying anyone, whatever. So that's not really, he's not my least favorite ever of all time ever, by any means. Jinder Mahal, I fucking hate. Like, the guy's terrible. Like, you guys know this. Anyone who's listened to my podcasts, 2 out of 3 Falls, Wrestle Rant Radio, this very show would know I do not care about Jinder one iota. So I guess he might be the least favorite wrestler I have right now. There's a lot of people I just don't care about that have no like ill will towards at all. Like, oh, I hate that person. Like, I'm not that really type of fan, to be honest with you. I'm not the type of fan to say, oh, fuck that guy. Like, they're a real piece of shit. Like, I hate that wrestler. Not really, to be honest with you. But Jinder Mahal currently might stand out as being like that one wrestler that I despise more than anyone else because I just care so little about him, and I like roll my eyes every single time he comes out just because he does absolutely nothing for me. Their second question: which Christmas movie do you think is the most overplayed? Christmas Story, Christmas Story, Christmas Story. Jeez, I just don't get the appeal of that movie at all. Aside from it being a tradition for people to watch it every year, I don't understand the movie. Like, it's not that I don't get it. I just don't find it funny at all. Like, my uncle would play it at their annual Christmas party that I'm going to later. At their house every Christmas Eve. They would leave on TNT and watch A Christmas Story. Not like sit down and watch it, but they would have it on in the background, you know? It just fucking sucks. Like, it's not funny. I don't know. I don't care about Christmas Story at all. That is easily the most overplayed. Maybe it's because it's on TV every year, every fucking 2 hours on TNT. Maybe that's what it is. But even still, like, I've seen the movie and it's just not good. Like, at all. People probably say the same thing about The Grinch, and I get it, but, like, The Grinch is actually funny. Jim Carrey is hilarious as The Grinch. Christmas Story is, like, just stupid. Not even dumb in, like, like, it's a Christmas movie, like, it's cringy or whatever. I forgot to mention Christmas Bounty is one of the worst Christmas movies I've seen. Santa's Little Helper and Christmas Bounty, the movies that The Miz was in years ago, God, those were bad, too. But Christmas Story, it's not a bad movie. I think it's very overrated, to be honest with you. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe you disagree. And you're one of the people that watches it every year, every minute on Christmas Eve on TNT. But I think it's stupid. I just don't really see the appeal of that movie at all. And their last question here: when will the review of Seth Rollins' 365 that came out today, and she put that up on Sunday, be uploaded? Well, as of this recording, it's already up. I recorded that review on Monday. And it was published on Monday night during Raw. So this question is outdated by this point, but I thought I would mention that. So if you want to check out my 365 review of Seth Rollins on Network and Show, please do so. It's already up right now on the channel from 2 days ago by the time this is up. At Iwagu, we'll close out with a few questions here. First from Iwagu91. Your thoughts on Rhea Ripley being the one to finally end Shayna Baszler's long NXT Women's Championship reign? I love it. I thought she was the right person at the right time. Could they have waited until TakeOver in February? Yeah, honestly. But at the same time, she's hot now. And she probably would be as popular, as hot as she is now in 2 months from now. But I really think, though, that now is the time to do it, coming off that huge Survivor Series weekend she had in Chicago. It was the final show of the year. It was the perfect time to do it. I'm glad they did it when they did. It was perfect. It was perfect as is. So, yeah, I love the match. She was the right person to end the reign. The first woman to hold gold in NXT and NXT UK. Major gold. I mean, I know Tyler Bate was like a former, NXT Tag Team Champion and an NXT United Kingdom Champion. But, like, for Ripley, the first person to hold the women's championships on both brands. The first person to hold major gold on both brands, which is pretty cool because Dunn hasn't done it yet. But, yeah, great match. Right person to do it, and I thought the moment was one of the better moments in NXT's history all year in 2019. And that's saying a lot. We've had a lot of great moments in NXT in 2019. But Rhea Ripley becoming champion, that post-match celebration, was one of the coolest moments and one of the coolest visuals I've seen on that show all year. And again, that's saying something for sure. Their second question, besides the Elite departing to open AEW, do you think that G1 Supercard was where things went downhill for Ring of Honor? Yes, you're absolutely right. Final Battle was like the last truly great show that they put on, and I was there, so I'm biased, but that show was amazing. It was a really good show last year over Christmas time, and they had a couple good shows before G1 Supercard, but yeah, G1 Supercard was the first time that I saw other people saying, like, wow, Ring of Honor did not bring the goods tonight. That was the first time I noticed that other people were starting to pick up on the fact that they lost a lot of star power in the Elite leaving. So yeah, G1 Supercard was really when it started to fall apart. May and June weren't that bad. It was really like during the summer when attendance sucked and Matt Taven was champion. When Matt Taven became champion at G1 Supercard was when it kind of went downhill for Ring of Honor. So yeah, I would absolutely credit that as being the big catalyst behind the fall of Ring of Honor in 2019, aside from the Elite leaving in late 2018. His last question here, do you see Jon Moxley beating Chris Jericho for the AEW World Championship? I don't actually. I've seen other people say that, and honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I would not take the championship off of Jericho yet. He's been such a great champion that I wouldn't end the reign yet, assuming they do the match at the Revolution pay-per-view. I think it's going to be Kenny Omega. They're building up this character arc for him where he can't win whenever it matters most, which I think will lead to him finally picking up that big win and beating Jericho for the championship, the very same guy that he lost to in the first ever AEW main event back at Double or Nothing. So, yeah, I do see it being Kenny Omega, not Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley could realistically win. And again, if Moxley continues to be really, really hot up until the Jericho match at the Revolution pay-per-view, a lot like Rhea Ripley, there's some things you just can't deny. So they very well could switch the championship onto fucking Moxley at the pay-per-view if they feel that he's hot enough to deviate from their plans because he's a hot enough champion. But right now, I don't really get that sense. He's popular and he's hot, but not as hot as like Rhea Ripley is right now, you know? So I wouldn't switch the championship. I would keep him in chase mode for a while longer and put the championship on Omega. And hey, maybe Moxley beats Omega for the championship. Who knows? Because they still have unfinished business, apparently, from the Full Gear match, the unsanctioned match last month. But I think it's going to be Kenny. I would love for it to be Moxley, but I do think it will be Kenny, and I don't have any issue with that. It's not as predictable as Roman becoming champion, and people have a problem with that because it's too predictable. This really isn't all that predictable, and it's a story worth telling because it makes all the losses that Omega has endured up to this point make sense. Final question for the episode, kind of a weird question to end on as the final question of the year, the final question of the decade from @Scarlet1, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars number 12. I thought both shows last week were good. NXT was clearly the superior show. But Dynamite had some highlights. They had the Omega and Page versus Lucha Bros match, which was great. Very good match there. The Jericho Jungle Boy match was a lot of fun. The main event between Lucha Bros and SCU, not Lucha Bros, the Young Bucks and SCU was kind of disappointing, so I would put that as a low point or as the worst of Dynamite, just because it was a really good match, but not nearly as good as it could have been. Kind of underwhelming, to be honest with you. The Dark Order shit at the end, I didn't mind, but the fake punches is absolutely the worst of that show. That's what really people were talking about coming out of that show on Friday, or rather Wednesday of last week. It wasn't the match itself or even the Dark Order stuff. It was those punches, those godforsaken fucking punches. That's embarrassing. So that was the worst of the show. NXT, there really wasn't any worst thing on the show. I thought everything was good, served the purpose, and those two title matches, Ripley and Baszler and then Balor and Cole, were amazing. Just amazing, amazing matches. So again, I got to give it to NXT as the show of the week and no real worst on that show. And just like that, that's the final question. That does it for the decade, for the 2010s here on #AskGSM. I mean, at the risk of sounding like a broken record here, at the risk of beating down a dead horse, thank you guys, as always, for your support of the show, support of really everything I do, whether it's, any podcast you've ever listened to, whether it be Wrestle Rant Radio or 2 out of 3 Falls or whatever, any video you've ever watched or listened to here on the channel, any tweet you've ever sent me, any, article you've ever read of mine, I appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much. Any review you've ever read on my website, all that stuff, I appreciate more than you will ever know. All it takes sometimes is one person Honestly, for one person to say, hey, I really appreciate your work, I enjoy your work, I read this, I watched that. I know people do, and sometimes people don't always say it. I'm the same exact way. But all it takes sometimes is one person. So not just for me, but that goes for anybody. So be sure, especially around this time of the year, around Christmas time, holiday season, people are more joyful. Some people don't have other people, and they need that special joy in their life. Reach out to those content creators that you watch and that you support and say, hey, I really enjoy what you do. I like this. I like X, Y, and Z. Trust me. They may just say thanks, and it may not sound all that important to them, but it means a lot more than you will ever know. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. It's been a great year for hashtag AskGSM, over 300 episodes deep, 317 to be exact. That will continue well into 2020 and beyond. You're not switching the day of the show. It will still be on Wednesdays going forward for as long as I can do it on Wednesdays. And yeah, that's really about it. Nothing special here. Hope you guys enjoy your Christmas. Have a great holiday. Have a very Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa, Three Kings Day, and everything else in between. We will be back, like I said earlier at the start of the show, next Wednesday. We take no days off here on hashtag. We take no days off just in general with anything. I'm a fucking workaholic. I write shit on Christmas. I write stuff. I have stayed up until midnight on Christmas writing articles to put out that day because that's what I do. That's what I fucking do. But anyway, guys, yeah, just have a great rest of your holiday. We will be back next Wednesday. And again, as I said at the start of the show, send in your questions starting now for end of the year type shit, predictions for 2020 perhaps. I'm not always great with that stuff, but I will do my best with them. I would love to know my predictions for 2019. I'll have to go back and check that out and look at the document of questions I put out for that first episode of the year, the last episode of 2018, to see if any of my predictions came true. Probably not, but it would be cool to see if they did. But yeah, that's about it. So send in those questions now, and we will try to record that show on either New Year's Eve or probably even the Monday. I know a lot of you guys sent in questions on, I'm recording this on Tuesday. Some people sent in questions on Monday night, probably not getting the memo that I almost recorded it on Monday morning. So get those questions in early. I will put out my questions to gather those questions sometime probably Monday, if not Tuesday, even Sunday night perhaps, probably Sunday, if not Monday. So keep an eye out for that. With all that being said, guys, if you spent any minute of this video watching, listening, whatever, on Christmas itself, the day that it's supposed to be uploaded, it means more than you will ever know. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, just have a great rest of your holiday. Have a very Merry Christmas. I wish all the best to you and yours. Enjoy the rest of your 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews, and I will catch your ass down the road. But where we're going, we don't need roads.